When I talk to men in general, like, and I could speak to this myself, like for me, if someone was asking me, like, what do I want most in a relationship? 99% of the answer is peace. They want peace. And for a lot of men, I think the home is probably the most stressful place in their life.
But when you come home to a wife you can't win with and believe is unhappy with you, and you don't know how to fix that, it eats away at the inside of a man's heart. A woman under God in her own expression as he desired her to be, first as an individual and then in union with her partner, is really what encapsulates it all, because we're all so uniquely different. If your husband comes home from something very stressful or he's going through some stuff and you're hitting the roof with stress and nagging and complaining and this, oh, he's late for dinner again and he didn't answer your calls all day, and that's not peaceful. That's why he sits in the driveway for an hour before he comes in the house or goes for a drive or to the gym, because he needs to prep himself to come into the door to deal with more stress.
I've heard a lot of men say, when I get to the front door, I want to take my armor off. I don't want to have to put armor on to come in my home.
Women underestimate the power that they have in the emotional well-being of their men, because we are told that you speak life or you speak death into people. He saw that men were not good alone and therefore created a partner to help him. We have very beautifully been designed to work in complement.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Show. And as you can tell, we're still in my home studio because our studio is under construction, but it's going to be awesome. The reason the studio is under construction, by the way, is the Resilient Studio, as well as Jeremy Stolnecker's show called March or Die. It's actually put inside the Mighty Oaks Foundation headquarters. It's going to be our global headquarters, which is being built in Conroe, Texas, or Montgomery, Texas. And we've been waiting to launch the project to build it out for like 3 years now. We've had the property. And so right now it's actually happening. If anybody's interested in how to support the building of the global headquarters for Mighty Oaks, where we serve military and first responders, you go to mightyoaksprograms.org. Obviously, it's the organization I founded, which is an incredible organization, amazing staff, have served over 500,000 warriors and their families through those programs. And you know, again, now we're getting to build our global headquarters. And in the center of it is going to be the studio. So it is a disruption, but it's for a really good cause, and we'll be back in the studio soon. But I do like being in my home office for it breaks it up a little bit, and I'm doing some episodes on the road. Today, I am really excited. You guys hear me say all the time how excited I am, how pumped I am about the guest. I'm really excited today, though, because it's a little bit different than my normal guest, but it's going to be really special. Something I've been looking forward to for a while now. I have Jennifer Porteous.
Yes,
I got it right. Jennifer Porteous here, and Jennifer is a coach, mentor. I don't want to use the word counselor, but she is an expert in biblical femininity.
Yeah,
I've been practicing this word, femininity, biblical femininity, and I gotta say, when I first heard about the word biblical femininity, I actually took it wrong. On the face, I was like, I associated it with some kind of feminism, and then I looked into it, and realized, well, that's exactly what I feel called to do, and I have committed my life to in the biblical masculinity side. You know, people like myself, Joe B. Martin, pastor friend of mine who you're familiar with. In fact, I mentioned you on his show when he was on this show, and a lot of other men that are in this space of speaking at men's conferences, mentoring other men in biblical masculinity, essentially helping men align their lives with the lives they were created to live. We're just so passionate about it. So to learn that on the opposite side was women challenging other women to be the women that God created them to be was really exciting for me. Not only exciting for me, encouraging, because it kind of it's nice to get met halfway.
Yeah, I agree. So, I think that when I discovered it, I think it was 5-7 years ago now, the part that made me really want to teach it was that no one was teaching it. I saw a lot of universe people teaching femininity, and I saw a lot of biblical aspects teaching what it meant to be a biblical woman, which were very, frankly, oppressive and abusive towards women in many circumstances and misunderstood. And I was righteously angry about it because when I started doing the work, it changed my life. And I started the business and started teaching it. And then the masculinity started coming out, and it works in complement. So it was necessary, in my opinion, to have that happen.
In a nutshell, I know we talked earlier. It's hard to put it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, what's the term biblical femininity mean?
It's interesting when people ask me to put it in a nutshell, because I find that when you try to put femininity into a nutshell, it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think a biblical woman under God is very hard to narrow down and make it short. But I think and feel self-interpretations of what a biblical feminine woman looks like from every extreme that you could possibly imagine. And ultimately, I think that in a nutshell, a woman under God in her own expression as he desired her to be, first as an individual, and then in union with her partner, is really what encapsulates it all, because we're all so uniquely different. So we all have our own expression of what it means to be feminine.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. When we hear we're both using the word created a lot. So if we go to back to creation, right,
Mm-hmm.
at the very beginning, God created man and woman, Adam and Eve, and as someone that teaches this, how do you view that, the order of creation? Adam being first, and then God realizing Adam needed someone to be with, a partner, and creating Eve. How do you view that?
To me, it's in alignment with how we live our lives the best way now. Men do not do well by themselves. Women do better under the safety and provision and security of their man. So even when you take the story of, she was created from his rib, when you're within a man's frame, we do better as women, that security, that protection, all of those things. So we were created to work in complement from origin. He saw that men were not good alone, and therefore created a partner to help him with all of the things. And I don't even know how to answer that differently, because to me, it's just how it is. Yeah. And we all work better because of it.
Yeah, it's by design.
It's just origin.
What is it for you, like in this space? What is it you do? Like, what's your mission? And how do you go about doing it? How do you go about it? I know you're not just mentoring women, you're mentoring men as well, couples. Mm-hmm. What is it that you do in this space?
Oftentimes, with men, it's a lot of feminine counsel.
Okay.
So I don't do mentorship per se with men, because that would be out of order.
Right.
But men do often seek feminine counsel that is unbiased. So when
us trying to understand the complex nature of women.
Yeah. Like, a woman has many roles primarily in their relationship with men. And I've kind of narrowed it down to something what I call the 3 C's, just to help everybody, which is counsel, confidant, and companion. And in professional relationships, men will seek out feminine counsel. And you can see that throughout history in all kinds of relationships. Even in storytelling, there's either there's a good feminine counsel giving advice to the king, or there's bad, and you can see how that goes. So in my work, there are men who come to me for feminine counsel because they can't go to their wives with what's going on the inside, because that would cause a disruption in how a woman feels secure, and it's too much emotionally for him to do that. Doesn't want to go to his mother because it's his mother. Right. So when you have an unbiased woman giving you straight truth without judgment, that's very relieving. It's a place for him to go and be like, oh, she's not judging me, and she's giving it to me straight, and she's got no kind of real, skin in it per se. Like, it doesn't really affect me at the end of the day, at the end when I go to bed.
Yeah, I can see that. You want to be able to tell your wife everything, right? But if I have a work scenario where the business, if I'm managing a business, that business is in crisis, and something really this really turbulent, a decision could be made, and maybe I lose my business.
Yeah.
And so it's weighing heavy on me, and I need some advice on that. I don't want to bring that home, because I want to protect her. I want to protect my wife's ability to be safe, feel safe, secure. I don't want to disrupt that in her. And if ultimately she doesn't feel secure, then there's going to be negative effects on how she interacts with me.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. What you're speaking to is so important, because I think so many people don't understand that when men share a crisis situation like that, a woman's brain and nervous system, the minute you tell us something like that, we either want to fix it or we become very anxious and our whole nervous system becomes disrupted because we're like, oh, if he loses the business, what happens to our home? What happens to the kids? Are we going to starve? Do we have to move? And our brain just starts going. We internally collapse. We freak out. Mm-hmm. So it's a very big sensation for us to hold. And then on the back end, you have us pestering you all the time. Have you figured it out yet? What are you going to do about that? What about this? What about that? And she's bringing you solutions. That's not helping, mm-hmm. And it can be difficult. So it's wise to not do that. And men need resources. Mm-hmm. They do need a place to go. And with male depression rates on the rise and, all the suicide that's happening in the men's space right now, men are needing more support and more counsel to just take their issues too and vent it out and let it all go out and seek counsel for that and feel supported without disrupting their family.
Yeah. Yeah. So men say they want the, I work with a lot of men, obviously, and Mighty Oaks it was built primarily as a men's program. Later on, we brought in spouses and female service members, and now we serve. But I personally know from my work at Mighty Oaks, I'm in no way qualified to help women, align themselves to be the women that God created them to be. But on the men's side, we all look at this Proverbs 31 woman, and we desire that, right? And then women want the Ephesians 5 sacrificial leadership of that talks about Christ loving the church so much that he gave his life for the mm-hmm. church, and that's supposed to be a image of how we're supposed to be towards our wives. So we have these images, and we're both saying we want these biblical models of men and women in our lives for our partners, but somehow we're not able to communicate with each other. Where we're missing each other, being able to communicate what we're actually looking for.
I think it's so blanketed when I hear those. It's so generic,
right?
Because if you came to me, Chad, mm-hmm. and you were courting me for marriage or something like that, and you're like, I want a Proverbs 31 woman. Mm-hmm. Great. Mm-hmm. How does that show up for you as a man with being in the public eye, with doing all the things that you do, with how you want your family raised, with all of the nuances of your life? How does that show up for you as an individual? Because you have a mission, mm-hmm. and you're asking a woman to submit to your mission and be a helpmeet to your mission. And at the same time, she needs someone who loves her in the way that Christ loved the church. So where's space for her to exist within that mission as well? Because men are not the only ones who have missions, mm-hmm. and women will be called to do different things, myself included, obviously. And if there's no space for that to exist in the marriage, then the marriage is incompatible. So people aren't talking about how those, generalizations show up as humans in real life marriages. They're not having deeper conversations about how that shows up for you. Mm-hmm. So if you were to come to me, my question to you would be, well, what does that mean? Right. What's a Proverbs 31 woman to you? How does that show up in your life? What do you need from me? What are you asking me to do?
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I read Proverbs 31, kind of what I've learned now is I was going to bring this up later. That's kind of the Proverbs 31 talks about the fruit, but not the action to get there. Mm-hmm. And the action to get a Proverbs 31 requires action, not just on the woman, but on the man as well. Mm-hmm. So, Proverbs 31 is what everybody points to, but it's really just illustrating the fruit, but not the work. That's one of the things I really want to get into later is how do women produce the fruit of Proverbs 31, and how do men invest in that as well?
When you imagine the fruit of a Proverbs 31 woman in marriage to you, what does that look like? If you were to describe it in your marriage, in your life, in your business, in your intimacy, what does that actually look like for you?
A peaceful home, a soft ability to communicate with a softness, a gentleness that women that to me, that I like how I visualize a woman would be to be able to communicate softly, nurturing, providing, like, and supporting, being that cheerleader, and just bringing stability into actually taking my chaotic life and helping bring stability to my life. To me, those are the attributes that I look for in a godly woman.
Which is amazing. Mm-hmm. And when I hear that from men, one of my questions that I often ask is, so when you say softness, mm-hmm. a lot of people think that's a tone. Mm-hmm. It's in her voice, it's in her movement, it's mm-hmm. all of those things. And I actually think it's a heart posture. Mm-hmm. I believe that a softness comes from a woman's receptivity to the man in her life and everything that's being provided for her, but also her softness towards life. Because when women are operating at a very, I kind of call it like a top side, like up in the head all the time, right. less in her heart. They're the go, go, go. They're the hustle. They're the busy. They're always very tightly wound. Mm-hmm. And there's no softness in that. It's like, trying to come up against a brick wall, per se. And a man does have a role in a woman having a softness to her, but it is not exclusively on him. And I think that's something that online is often narrated as it's a man's responsibility to create the life that a woman can be soft in. And that's not true. Women have an responsibility and accountability to their own heart posture in their life and in their marriage. Like, it's not all up to the man to do everything for you. We're not entitled little girls here. We're not toddlers. We need to build our emotional intelligence and be self-aware and know what we're contributing to our relationship, and including our relationship to ourselves. So when I hear men have to create a safe, secure place for a woman to be soft, I'm like, yeah, it's contributory, but you can be a soft-mannered woman in your heart before you ever meet a man. That's just who you are. That's femininity, in my opinion, is a softness. So I don't like when they put all of the accountability on men, like you guys somehow have to do everything perfectly in order for a woman to be a certain type of way, because that totally takes away any emotional accountability on women to mature. It's a mature stance. We're not 5-year-olds. We're not little girls in older women's bodies. And most women who have that mindset of, he needs to create the life for me to be soft. I'm like, no, that's an entitlement. I don't like entitlement.
Yeah.
Doesn't suit my...
Well, it's not helpful to anyone. It's not certainly not helpful.
So it's important, I think, when men are talking about, oh, I want a soft woman, or I want her to be supportive, it's important to really think about how that shows up for you. Mm-hmm. Because I also know men who are high performing and they need their women to have a little bit of grit too.
Yeah.
They need to be able to
Well, when I talk to men in general, and I could speak to this myself, for me, if someone would ask me, what do I want most in a relationship? And again, I ask this to other men as well. What do you want most in your relationship? And 99% of the answer is peace. They want peace. Obviously, men are driven for sex. They want to have sex, and those are things they want. They want to be sex. They want to be admired. They want to be respected. All those things. But usually, at the real fundamental level, when guys are in crisis, and I talk to them, that's usually what they say. They just want peace. Mm-hmm. And I think that peace comes from a softness, a tenderness that only a woman can bring in a relationship.
I agree. I think it's really women underestimate the power that they have in the emotional well-being mm-hmm. of their men, because we are told that you speak life or you speak death into people. And if your husband comes home from something very stressful, or he's going through some stuff, and you're hitting the roof with stress and nagging and complaining and this, oh, he's late for dinner again, and he didn't answer your calls all day, and that's not peaceful. That's why he sits in the driveway for an hour before he comes in the house or goes for a drive or to the gym, because he needs to prep himself to come into the door to deal with more stress. It doesn't mean that women can't express themselves if they're going through some stuff as well, but I make a solid effort when my husband, which isn't very often, expresses stress, that when he comes home, I'm the furthest thing away from stressed.
Mm-hmm.
I meet him at the door. I give him a hug. I give him a kiss. How are you? Dinner will be ready in 5 minutes. And if he needs to go zone out in his office for a while and I leave him alone, I'm fine with that. He wants to go for a bike ride because he rides his bike forever. I'm fine with that. I don't give him a hard time about what he needs to decompress in our home because he's the provider in our home. And if I don't give him a space to come home to and chill out so he can reset and do the same thing the next day, that's not good for our marriage and that's not good for our family.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of men say, when I come home, when I get to the front door, I want to take my armor off. I don't want to have to put armor on to come in my home. And, for a lot of men, I think the home is probably the most stressful place in their life, which is sad, but it's a reality. And I say this reality of all the men I get to speak to, this. If you ask them where's the most stressful place in your life, it's not at work, it's not in the boardroom, it's not a police officer, arresting a bad guy or accountant, crunching numbers for the fiscal report. It's in their home, and so that comes down to the relationship. On the other side for men, the other side of the relationship is their woman, and so it's a problem that I think most of us don't know how to solve.
Yeah, it breaks my heart, truly, because it's actually a much easier fix than most people think. I hear it a lot as well. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is because when men go to work and you guys are dealing with businesses or other men and you're problem solving all day, those are typically problems that you guys know how to fix. Mm-hmm. You're on the trajectory, your brain's going, all the things. But when you come home to a wife you can't win with and believe is unhappy with you, and you don't know how to fix that, it eats away at the inside of a man's heart because he just can't win. If he can win at work, he can make money, he can have good friends, he can be successful, all the things, and he goes home and he can't win with his wife, it eats away at him.
Yeah. And
that's truly what it is. Men, and women get their backs up about me saying, oh, he just wants to win with me. I'm like, yeah, he does. Mm-hmm. Men are conquerors. Mm-hmm. That is what they do. Men are competitive. That's what you liked about him in the first place. So you can't be mad that he wants to win with you and he wants to make you happy when that's what you liked about him in the first place. That's what attracted you to him in the first place, is that he was, ambitious and successful and willing to do all the things that needed to be done.
In this conversation, the word submission comes up quite a bit. It's kind of a buzzword in relationships, and especially when you talk about men and women, especially in the church world of men and women. Beyond the buzzword of the word submission, like what does submission actually mean?
It's actually one of my favorite words.
Yeah, okay.
And I love redefining it. I think submission has gotten a very bad reputation. Because it has been used to the harm of women in the past. Not in all cases, but in enough cases that women's entire systems twist up and lock up when they hear that word. Yeah. Because to them, it means that they don't have a say in anything anymore. Their feelings don't matter anymore. What they want doesn't matter anymore. Their happiness doesn't matter anymore. And that's simply not true. I actually teach it from a position and posture of submission to God first. And if you can be in submission to God, then you will learn what it means to be in submission to a man. So a submission to me is a woman's heart posture towards God himself from origin. And you don't have to be with a man in order to be a submissive woman. I don't. And then you meet a man and you actually can't help it. When you meet a man who makes you feel safe in a way that you cannot explain, it is unexplainable. You can't help it. You just, it's very experiential for women, so trying to explain it to you is interesting for me. But women actually can't help it.
when they feel safe. So
Yeah.
just like the men saying to me that what they want most is peace, women ultimately want safety, security.
Yeah, women are driven and we fall in love through safety. And it's a different feeling because a man can provide a home. He can pay all the bills. He can carry a gun. He can know all the things and actually still be unsafe.
That's what I'll say. That necessarily means she's going to feel safe.
It doesn't necessarily make you safe. So safety is a state of regulation. Is that man going to be knocked off his axis when the smallest thing happens and then he becomes extremely emotionally volatile? Is he inconsistent? Is he out of integrity with himself as a man, right? Like, can he keep his word to himself? Does he keep his word to other people? You can feel it. Like women know.
Fidelity, right? Like the faith, like fidelity side has to be huge.
Yeah.
The trust.
Yeah. It's really interesting because women can feel it. And when women say that they want to be with a man who leads, and then they meet one and he's actually safe, sometimes it will scare them because they've never experienced it before. And they'll run away from it. And then they'll regret it later. But you see a lot of really good men who are really safe, really grounded. They've done all the things. And they're like, why can't I meet a nice woman, or I meet this woman and she turns me down and then goes dates some loser? It's because that loser validates her pattern of what she knows men to be like. And she doesn't know how to lean into the safety that she's experiencing because it doesn't actually have language. She's like, this guy's different. I don't know. He's kind of nice, but he doesn't say a lot. He's very steady all the time. Is that normal? He doesn't fight with me. Like, yeah, you don't actually have to fight with your husband, just so you know. You don't have to fight with your husband. There's other ways to do it. And they're shocked.
Like mature adult conversations are actually possible.
Yeah. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You don't have to slam doors.
Yeah. So Ephesians 22 says, calls wives to submit their husbands as it would submit to God. And that's a big calling to submit that level of authority to their husbands. But I think men love that, right? And they love being called the heads of the home. But what I think many men miss is that we're called to serve and be sacrificial, just like Christ was to the church. So we love our wives so much that we would lay our lives down for her. And so I think ultimately what Ephesians talks about is a servant leadership. And that servant leadership is demonstrated through the life of Christ as a sacrificial leadership.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, like, it requires both sides. So for me, if I'm leading in a sacrificial way and sacrificing the things that I might want or desire for my spouse, then that puts her in a position to feel safe to be in that submissive state. This is from a man's side.
No, and I like it. No, and what you're speaking to is really interesting as a whole. The submission as a whole is such a great, it's a really good topic. Submitting to a man the way a woman submits to God is because we have very beautifully been designed to work in complement. A man has instincts and perceptions and vision in a way that women do not have. Maybe some women don't like hearing that, but oh well. Because women have a different kind of intuition and a different kind of depth of feeling body that men do not have. So when my husband says like, no, I don't think that's a good idea right now, or no, I might not know why. And I might not know or like that he's saying no, but I trust that he sees something that I don't see. And you know what? I don't want to see it. It is such a privilege. And it is so relieving to not have to think about all the things that he's thinking about, because it doesn't come naturally to me as a woman. What comes naturally to you as a man to lead that way from up here is I don't want to. It stresses me out. And all the women I've ever mentored, all the women I've ever talked to, is I'm like, if you just let him do what he does, you can rest, you can relax, you can submit to that leadership because he's leading from a place that God has gifted him to do differently than you. So you can relax down here. And should he bring home an idea and he's like, oh, hey, babe, maybe we should make this investment or we should do that. And you guys go out for dinner. And she meets the guy and she's like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right. Something feels off about that. You're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to listen and be like, what do you mean? And you're going to take that insight that she has because you're like, hey, the numbers are there. This guy's good. He talks a good, all the things. Data-wise, it adds up. But something in her is telling her no.
You start to learn to trust each other.
Yeah. And it works in complement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say this to guys a lot. Like, what real leadership? Anybody that's been in real leadership knows that leadership isn't just authority. Leadership is responsibility.
It is.
And so when you're in charge of something, like I'm in charge of some of my companies, ultimately at the end of the day, if those companies succeed or fail, ultimately as a leader, I'm responsible for that.
Yes.
And so nothing's different in a relationship. If I'm the leader of that relationship, I'm ultimately responsible for the success or failure of it. And I think when men understand that and actually live that way and serve in their relationship that way, that has to take a tremendous burden off of the woman.
It really does. And it's fascinating because you guys are just hardwired to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Your brains will go, okay, I'm going to make this decision. How does this affect my wife? How does this affect my kids? What impact does this have on my home time? What effect does it have on, this? That you guys consider so many factors in a snap because that's how you're designed. Mm. And it's so wonderful that you guys do that. You're considering all the things. And I think that's the sacrificial part is you're not just thinking about how it benefits you or how it affects you, but you're like, oh, how does this affect my family life? How does it affect my marriage? How does it affect my kids, the home? Is this going to cause a lot of disruption? Do I have to yank my kids out of their school? Do I have to pull my wife away from her? Like you start pulling in all the pieces.
Look at all the consequences and the rewards and consequences, and you take responsibility for those and you make decisions that way. But I mean, I do agree with you that we're hardwired that way because I believe we were designed and created that way. But unfortunately, like many, I even loosely use the term men in our current culture, or just boys who shave, who are not living out what they were hardwired to do.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot because they've never been initiated.
Yeah, well, yeah, they hadn't had anyone teach them, and discipleship comes in generation to the next and every generation we go by, you get less and less actual men that understand how to live out those hard wirings.
Yes, and women have been trying to take over the roles of fathers. And you can see the effects of that. And
you mean in broken homes, or even in intact homes?
In general, they run the show. The dad allows the mother to run all of the things regarding the children.
Yeah, they run families. They run the churches. I mean, most churches are pretty much run by women.
And it's women are designed to be communal. Mm-hmm. So we do thrive in community. We do build communities. That is part of our calling and what we're meant to do. But in the home, if you don't honor the role of the father and what he really sees and needs to do with his children, provided it's not harmful, of course, which actually men and women have a little bit different views on what's harmful. But dads have a responsibility to raise their boys as boys and to show their daughters how they should marry and how women are supposed to be treated. And that's not happening because a lot of women have stepped in and decided that men are just another child in their house. There's not really a husband. He's just my other grown kid. Mm-hmm. My insides really shrivel up when I hear women refer to their husband as, oh, he's my other child. I'm like, oh. Yeah. Please don't say that.
Yeah, it's so demeaning, right? And it's
very emasculating
to the man.
Yeah, so they take over everything. Mm. And then we have boys who are fragile.
I could tell you as a man that there's nothing that gets under my skin more than being like mothered. Not just by a spouse, by like a woman that tries to mother me, like anywhere I go. It's just like, I just doesn't feel right away. I'm like...
Yeah, and it shouldn't feel right. It's very disrespectful. If you wanted a mother, you'd call your mother. Yeah, it doesn't feel good either to be treated like an infant. It's you're essentially telling that man when you mother him that you don't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm mothering you because I don't trust you to make decisions. I don't trust you to do X, Y, and Z. I don't trust you to make the right decision for our boys. I don't trust you to make the decisions for our home. I don't trust you to pick up your own prescription from the doctor. I don't trust you to make your own doctor's appointments. I could not imagine managing my husband's life that way. Like, if he can't manage himself as a grown man, I might as well be single. Mm. But yeah, it shouldn't feel good. It should feel bad. And I don't understand why women want to. It feels bad.
Yeah.
It feels bad.
So there's a difference between mothering and being a helpmate.
Yes.
Men, especially high-performing men, they're busy, they're chaotic schedules. And so oftentimes a really good woman comes in and helps, keeps things in order, makes sure, So there's a difference between being that helpmate and being the mothering person. Can you break those out for me?
Yes.
This is a little personal asking, right?
No.
Very personal.
I know.
Because I need help. I need help all the time. And I'm like...
It matters. So the help me is an important role, because what women underestimate is men's ability to give direction. Mm-hmm. If a man wants your help, he'll ask and he will tell you, hopefully, exactly what he wants you to do. And if he's not being clear enough with you, there is communication tools to say, like, I don't understand what you need me to do. What do you need me to do? Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, X, Y, and Z. Go do such and such and such. And you're like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. It's very clear. You're helping him meet that goal, that mission, that task, and whatnot, versus just taking over and assuming he's incompetent and incapable. Men are very capable. They're very competent, but there can only be one driver.
Yeah.
So if I've got my hands on the wheel and I'm doing all the work, for a man to reach over and grab the steering wheel, he's putting everyone in danger because there can only be one driver.
Right.
So, to mother a man, if you're managing all of his stuff, buying his underwear unless he asks you to, don't do it. Just stop. Just stop doing it.
So,
did that clear the question a little bit?
It does, yeah. And very much, because like I said, I'm one of the guys. I'm so busy. I need help. I'll take all the partner, the help mates I can have.
Yeah, and all you got to do is, like, women, we love to help. Yeah. Just tell us what you need us to do. I think that's part of the problem. Is sometimes we can, as women, especially your wife or your spouse, we know you better than anyone. We know your patterns. We know your behaviors. We know your functions.
Your blind spots.
Yes. Yeah. So we do have insights. And we do want to reflect them back to you, but there's ways to do it other than just taking over.
Right.
Be like, hey, love, I noticed that this and this and this is happening. Do you need anything from me? Mm-hmm. Can I help somehow? If he says no, then you take that at face value. Mm-hmm. But if he's like, oh yeah, maybe I could use help with organizing some of the paperwork, or maybe you could go on a run for me and do X, Y, and Z and handle this, this, and this. That's very clear. But when we see stressful situations, we automatically assume that he can't handle it, which isn't the case.
Yeah.
If you're worried because you notice him running himself into the ground and you lovingly bring your wifehood into that, and that's that nurturing part you were speaking to earlier.
Yeah.
A good husband's gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pay attention to this. Is there something I need help with? And if he doesn't, well, that's on him. If he says no, that's on you, dude.
Yeah. One of the things that I've told my boys this, raising my sons. I'm like, find a woman that loves God more than you and you more than herself. So my personal view in relationships is that if the woman loves you more than she loves God, then it's a disproportionate scenario to where you're going to be put in that pedestal of God, and you're going to that you can't handle, and you're going to let her down constantly. So I've heard this kind of cliche, a little triangle thing where you got like at the bottom of the base of the triangle, you got man, you got woman, and at the top of the pyramid, you have God, right? You have this triangle relationship. So if the man and woman are both pursuing their relationship with God, the closer they get to God, the closer they get to each other. It's a really healthy relationship. If they bypass that and just go across the bottom, they stay as far away. They meet each other in the middle or some point, but they're as far away from God as possible in the marriage. The marriage or relationship isn't healthy. And then if one's closer to God and the other one's pursuing each other, it creates this nasty cycle. So what would you say about that, where the hierarchy of love and pursuit should be always God first?
Always God first.
Okay.
Always God first. And when you actually think about that pursuit, it should be happening before you're with your spouse anyway.
Right.
It should be happening, and it shouldn't be abandoned.
Your primary love should be towards God.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I actually had to learn this lesson when I started this journey myself, was that if I wasn't a wife, if I wasn't a mother, if I wasn't, at the time I was an employee, if I wasn't a friend, if I wasn't a daughter, I was just Jennifer. Well, what's left? It's just me and God. So the whole world could be wiped out in an instant, and it's going to be just me and him.
Nothing could take that away.
Yeah, that better be my most intimate and deep and personalized relationship above all else. Because if that's intact, everything else is going to be okay. Yeah. I'm going to refer back to that every single time. And it will also stop me from giving my husband a role that he actually isn't capable of fulfilling. So when you see a lot of marriages that are absent of faith, they end up putting the other into a role of an idol because they've got God-shaped holes in their heart and they don't know it. So you end up chasing relationships. I hear, and I've said this myself way back in the day, and I've heard men say it too, is, I just don't know if the thing I'm looking for exists. I'm like, yeah, because you're looking for God. Yeah. You're looking for everything else except God. As soon as you find God, the love that you've been looking for your whole life is present, and it governs your relationships moving forward. It is the benchmark.
So that's the easy one.
Yeah.
Pursue God first before your spouse. You're going to end up in a healthy relationship. This is the hard one. And I think women have a hard time with this. So the first loves God, the second loves your spouse, meaning the third love is your children.
Absolutely.
Women have a very hard time with putting their spouse before their children.
Yeah.
Men can do it, right? But I feel like moms have a hard time putting the spouse before the children. Why is that so important?
I think it's because women get upset about that idea because they don't actually understand what it means. And I would be interested to see if the women who really struggle with that, what their marriage looks like. In most cases that I've seen that, where the woman is primarily child focused and the husband comes not even after the children, but last. The marriage is in disarray.
Yeah, if he's not second, he's last.
Yeah.
I mean, that's every time I've seen it. It seems that way.
Same. Yeah. And if you put your marriage first, you are setting it's in its own way, putting your children first at the same time, because your marriage is the template of what they're going to be brought up in and what they are going to marry into. So they're going to see how men treat women, how women are treated by men, how men are treated by women. They're going to notice conflict resolution. They're going to notice energetics, devotion, submission to God. Everything that you model in your marriage is the unspoken teachings for your children.
Not to mention the environment they're going to be in.
Correct.
If the husband's last, then the environment's going to be terrible.
Yes.
And so now you're the person you're trying to love the most and put the most focus on is in a terrible environment because you've chosen to put them above the marriage.
Yes.
So yeah.
It's a thing. And women think by neglecting the marriage and being focused on the children that they're ensuring their children's safety, well-being, it's nurturing, all the things. But you have to really view it as your marriage. If it is well taken care of, it's by default putting your children first because you want them to see and experience a safe, loving environment so that when they get older, they marry well and they bring up their kids in something like that. They're not running to their therapist for 20 years talking about all their childhood trauma because, dad would kind of just came and went and was really quiet. You didn't see him a lot. Mom ran the show. She did all the things. She did all the laundry. My mom, ran herself into the ground. What do you think that child who's a boy as a man is going to marry into? He's going to marry his mother.
Yeah.
He's going to marry his mother and your daughters are going to marry your husband. Which is interesting because if that spouse is brought home, the dad won't like the guy and the mom won't like the girl.
Right. Yeah.
Like they won't like it. That was a pivotal moment for me, Chad, in my work. You know that?
No.
Was because I was the do-it-all mom.
Right.
I was the, a husband can go do whatever he wants to do and all the things. And I was overwhelmed all the time. And one day I was like, I also used to say all the things you hear. Oh, I don't need a man. I choose a man. I can do all the things.
I'm a strong, independent woman.
Strong, independent woman.
Don't need a man.
Oh, yeah. I was all of that. I was all of that. And one day I realized that my boys were going to marry me. And it was so sobering.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Absolutely not. And it was shocking to me.
Yeah.
And, I'm divorced. My marriage had failed. I'm remarried now. And I went inward and I said, my relationships have not worked out. My marriage failed. I've got 2 sons. They're going to marry me. I'm the common denominator, so something's got to change. And that was empowering to me. I was like, oh, it's not external circumstances. I don't have to be a victim of the world here. This is an internal thing. And I got to work. And I felt so passionate about it, I turned it into a business.
Yeah.
And into a ministry. But that was sobering. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you come to yourself and you pick yourself back up and you realize that, I think some of the best ministries come out of somebody that fell on their face.
Yeah.
They had a radical encounter with God. God helped them, came in and swooped in and gave them a better way. And they subscribed to that and worked at it and then they paid it forward. That's, yeah. It's the story of Mighty Oaks.
I met God at the bottom of my shower, really met him. Mm-hmm. I remember my marriage had ended and I sat there and I was crying and I was like, I've done everything. The checklists of relationships, like, oh, they look good on paper. Okay, I look it up. I cook, I clean, I can garden, I take care of the children, I can sew, I make good money, I do all the things. And I was grieving what I didn't know. And I was like, where is this man that you told me I'm supposed to have? And I've done everything. I've done everything that anyone could ever think of that you're supposed to do as a woman, and he's still not here. So what's happening? And then everything changed. But that was the question. Yeah, I might go on the bottom of the shower after I had done it all.
When it comes to finding the right partner, where do men and women go to find the right partner? Because some of this, I looked up some of these stats because I was super interested in the average woman. This is the average woman when asked what they're looking for in a mate. They say they're looking for someone single, which is good, right? They're looking for a single man who's handsome, fit, over 6 feet tall. I'm out. Makes 6 figures. And so statistics show that a single man who's handsome, fit, over 6 feet tall, and makes 6 figures is less than 1% of the population. Mm-hmm. So they're, and that's, even if that man's even interested in them, right? Maybe they find that 1% man, and man might not be interested in them. And for fun, I couldn't help myself because maybe a little bit egotistical. I put my dad. I'm like, I'm going to put me in there, and so as obviously not 6 feet tall, so the 6 feet was pulled out, but I said, I'm a masculine dude. I have the ability to provide and protect. Christian values. That was the big one I wanted to see. Add Christian values in there. And I put some other stuff about me. And turns out I'm in the 0.1%. And it actually said that it'd be 1 in a million, and woman may go their whole lifetime without ever meeting someone like me. So I was like pretty proud of myself. It kind of boosted my ego a little bit. But again, that's even if a woman finds that rare man they're looking for, he might not even want them. So what is, if we're not looking for that, right? Those are statistics and those are real numbers. Then what are we actually looking for? What are women actually looking for? What are men actually looking for if the odds are that small?
Mm-hmm. So what's really fun about the stat that you brought up, if you look at the majority of those stats, 6 figures, 6 feet tall, handsome.
I hate that one. I'm okay with the handsome one.
Handsome is subjective. What else was on there? There was another one, wasn't there?
Oh, fit.
Okay.
And single.
Well, I mean, I hope that's
Obviously.
a default.
Yeah,
if you're looking for a married guy, you're probably not following Christian values.
Right.
But if you look at the 6 figures, the 6 feet tall, and the fit, I'm going to focus on those 3 at first. What do they signal on a deeper level? Discipline and safety. So typically a 6-foot man is bigger than most women. So we use 6 feet tall because a man who's that big and tall can be, in our brains, protective. We feel safer with someone who's bigger than us. And if he's not necessarily bigger, then fit balances that out because he's at least probably stronger. But fit is a real fun one, and I'll get into that into a second. But 6 figures means that he can financially provide, which is security. So women are using these benchmarks when really ultimately they're being driven at a deep level by security and safety and feeling protected.
Which is what you said in the very beginning.
Exactly. So the fit part is really interesting because we're actually more flexible on that than you think. But what it signifies is discipline and a strong relationship to himself. So
what do you mean you're more flexible? Like women are okay with the dad bods. It was like
I mean,
I think as women get older, right, they become less superficial. Men.
I think the thing is that
maybe men keep that probably longer.
Well, it depends on the severity of the dad bod because I mean, there's a gradient. If we're going to be honest about that. Right. But that's something that can be worked on.
Yeah,
that's something we can do
ultimately,
together.
it's not about to me. It's not about looks. I think you want a partner that's gonna be healthy. That's gonna be around.
That's what I was getting into. Is the discipline to work on your body. It's not just actually a physical thing for a man. For a man to work on his body is mental. You guys do a lot physically. You process your emotions physically. So when a man goes to the gym, he's not just working out necessarily for aesthetics. He's also processing emotions, he's decompressing, he's doing all kinds of things. And it shows that he has the discipline to remain consistent at something. So it's an external display of an internal posture and a mindset behind the man. And that's very safe to a woman.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it looks great. But
but you also if you're looking for a life partner, you don't want them to die of diabetes next year, right?
Correct.
Like they're unhealthy,
Correct.
So that has to be a factor.
Yes. And that's part of it is, you know what? He actually takes care of himself. So if this man's going to provide for me and we're going to have children, what happens if we don't want him to have a heart attack and now all of our safety is out the window? And ideally we're growing in love here. So you don't also want to be without your partner prematurely. And those are real things that exist in a woman's system all the time. Is no, we want you to be healthy. No, we're worried that you're stressed out. We don't want you to have a stroke. We don't want you to have a heart attack. We don't want you to end up in a wheelchair. You're our partner. You're also the provider for our home. If you're just gone one day, our entire life goes upside down. And that's a big thing. So if you see your guy sitting on the couch, shoveling it back, and he doesn't care about anything, and you see diabetes creeping in, you see high blood pressure, you see, you know, all of those markers, it gets scary. It gets scary for women.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I don't complain. When my husband wants to go ride his bike for 40 miles or 50 miles a day on a Saturday and I haven't seen him all week, I don't complain. I don't complain because I would rather have my husband around longevity wise than, you
Saturday
know,
morning.
a Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
So thinking back to that, what are they? They're looking for safety, security.
Safety and security, consistency. One of the big things too is a man who, and this is an interesting conversation to have with men, but we need to feel significant to our men. Mm-hmm. And you'll hear women use words like, I just want to feel seen. I'm like, well, you actually want to feel significant. So let's clarify that.
Right.
But what it really means is that she can be in an emotional state and it doesn't cause him to be avoidant or dismissive or knock him off axis, and doesn't necessarily try to fix it. So some of the work that I do with women, we spend a lot of time on communicating our needs. Like if you're having a bad day, you just need to cry it out. I'm like, go up to your husband and be like, I need a hug. I need to just cry. I don't need you to fix anything. And he's like, I don't need to fix anything. Okay, I just need to hug her. And the communication is so simple, but oftentimes that gets lost. And just being able to feel significant in that moment, and he's not trying to fix anything because men are fixers. Bless you guys. We need that. But not when we're crying our eyes out.
Yeah. So, for men, what are men looking for in those when men are seeking a spouse out? I mean, we talked about the softness, the nurturing, but when a man's looking to court a woman, what is he out looking for?
So that's an interesting question because men have so many different ways that they show up in the world mission-wise. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important for men to know what kind of woman you need in complement to you. You know, you and I have spoken in the past about what it means to be public facing and have someone who maybe will travel with you a little bit or attend certain things with you. And if you have a highly introvert, shy woman, she feels very uncomfortable with that. Mm-hmm. She just wants to live her barefoot life in the country and you have to go travel all the time. That might not be an alignment of values. They might be a really great woman and be really sweet and nurturing and all the things. But if your lifestyles and trajectories don't align, someone's going to end up resenting someone else. And it's really important, I think, that you know what you need in your helpmeet and in your wife. And you're able to carry that when you're meeting women, when you're sitting down, you're listening to her speak. And she's like, oh, I just want to have my hobby farm and raise my kids and not really go and do a lot. I just want a quiet country life. And you're the kind of person who wants to live in a penthouse in the city and you work downtown and you do all the things. That's not going to work. There's going to be a friction point. So I think for men, you guys have to get really clear on what you need to complement you. And if you're a young man, you have to make different kinds of decisions on, do you want children? Mm-hmm. Do you expect your wife to and want your wife to stay at home with those children? Like, what does that look like? I had that conversation with my son the other day.
Yeah.
My son came into my bedroom. He's like, well, you know, Mom, I think that I would really like to have a wife who would help provide. And he used those words. I looked at him. I said, so you want your wife to have like 5 jobs? And he was very confused. Mm-hmm. I said, well, first, she's a woman in her own self, working on her own things. She's also your wife. She's a mother. She's a cook. She's a cleaner. And now you also want her to go out and make a living? And he had to rethink everything because he was looking at what he wanted to do professionally and how much money he needed to make in order to provide for this life. And that changed his perspective. Because now, oh no, I don't want her to have to do all that. Oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
You know, so if you don't want to have children and it's just the two of you and you guys are doing a different kind of mission, that's perfectly fine. But just know you have to get some clarity on where you're going.
Yeah.
Because you'll be unconsciously listening for it when you're courting and when you're dating.
And you said those two words, courting and dating. I'd like to pause there and say, what's the difference between those two? Because dating is a lot different than courting. I think some people would agree on. I think most people that I would give advice to would be as a man, date, you court. Dating is like kind of going out and having fun, dating different. Courting is you're dating for a partner, a life partner.
Yes.
Marriage.
Yes. I would say that courtship is very intentional. When men are ready, they're ready. And then you guys know when you're ready. And typically, men will observe or meet a woman and go, that one. And he focuses in and courts and pursues, and he doesn't have vision for anyone else. A man who isn't quite sure, maybe he's not clear on what he wants, he's not clear on what he's looking for, he's dipping his toe into the dating pool, maybe after a bad divorce, he'll go out and go on more casual dates to sort of feel it out, see what's out there, get his feet wet. But courtship is very intentional. You're ready to get married, you're ready to do all the things, whatever that might be for that particular man, and it's intentional. So I would consider dating much more broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I really want to get into this trauma. Most of us bring trauma into relationships. Maybe I think for women, maybe surfaces more in relationships because of the father wounds or being hurt by a man, and then you end up in this scenario where you have this safe boundaries. I know you don't like the word boundaries.
I hate that
word. Versus being cynical. I know you talked about. We were talking about that last night. You hate this word, boundaries.
I hate that word, and it makes everyone mad when I say that, but I do. I don't like that word.
But just like the difference between, how's a woman like get past the cynical side of what's been done to her to healthily move into a relationship with a man.
Okay, well, first I'm going to clarify why I don't like the word boundary.
Okay.
Because I think that's important. The entire everyone of who's watching this is going to have their backup about it. I don't like the word boundary because in most cases it's used in replacement of honest expression. It's someone saying, I feel uncomfortable, or no, I don't want to do that. And instead they use the word, I have a boundary there. Boundary is to keep something out.
Okay.
When really you can say like, I feel uncomfortable. And a good man is going to care that you feel uncomfortable. And if he doesn't care, he's not a good man. He's not for you. There's a very big difference there. So when we're talking about softness, a boundary is very hard. You come up with hard boundaries, right? Yeah. Whereas if you say to a good man, I feel really uncomfortable with that, he'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. How can I make you comfortable? How can I fix that? And you allow that good character to come through instead of just closing off to him. So I don't love the word boundary because it moves women away from truthful expression and being able to connect to whomever they're with, which I think is far more important and much healthier for the relationship. You asked me a question. I forgot what it was.
The question was about, women coming into a relationship with either trauma from a father or from a past relationship, from being hurt by a man. Most women at early ages have been in some way or another hurt by a man. And so that's a very big factor in most relationships. And I'm asking on behalf of like the men, how do we navigate these hurts and to be able to connect with a woman who's being cynical, having those maybe boundaries or walls up, or because even right or wrong with the word boundaries, like they're there because of something someone else did.
Yeah.
How do men deal with that?
This might be difficult because it's a little bit of both. First of all, in most cases, actually, that's not your work to do. That it's not. You will, and as we get older, we will come up against people or in a relationship with people who do have trauma, and that's fine. I think we all kind of get hurt as life progresses. But ultimately, it's not your job to fix her trauma. It's her job. And that will even start with if she wants your support in moving through some of those things, the responsibility is with her to say to you, I've been through a lot. these are some of the things that I struggle with. I might be a little bit sensitive in this area and I need some extra patience or support. And on the man's side, if he's observing these patterns, he can give it language as well. He can be like, hey, I know that you mentioned to me you had this problem in the past or this happened to you. You were in an abusive relationship or whatever. Like, do you need me to be more patient here? Or is there a way I can support you differently here? And that will force her to think and not just react and not just shut down and not just be cold or avoidant or detached. It will draw her either in and being like, oh, well, maybe if, and she'll offer something from her heart. Or if she's like, no, just back off, that's going to tell you a lot.
Yeah.
If she's closed to you and doesn't want to work on it and do the things, your attention might be better directed somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because if she's unwilling, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
Good men don't force themselves on women, and that's a mirroring of God. God is a gentleman. He doesn't force himself on us at all. We have free will, and that is same in our relationships with men. So if you have a good man coming to you, wanting to support you, help you, and do whatever he can, and you're closed to him,
yeah,
then what's he going to do?
His hands are tied on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually really good advice. I was really interested in what you were going to say on that. Sex. So you can't have this conversation without talking about sex. I think for the most part, men, sex is obviously very important to men. We're wired that way, to procreate and pursue and procreate. And it's, we're just, well, at least, most males should be alpha males. I know that's not always the case. There's some beta males out there, and we're praying for them. But for the alpha males out there, sex is a very important thing in a relationship. Men and women see sex differently. What do you think sex is to men? What do you think sex is to women? And what's a healthy sex life look like in a healthy relationship for couples?
Well, sex is like anything. It is the most intimate form of connection, right? And it is sacred to the marriage. Men feel love through sex. It's what gets you out of your head. It de-stresses you guys, and it connects you in a way that nothing else in your life does. So it does different things for men than it does for women. And it's difficult because men can be like, I've had a hard day. I'm going to go have sex. And I'm going to feel better after. You kick back, you go to sleep, life's good.
And women are like, I had a hard day. I'm not interested at all in sex.
Yeah. So for women, what most men miss the mark on is that if our emotional needs aren't met, we're not going to want to do anything. And even if we've had a hard day, there is a bridge, of letting those emotional needs be met and the heart be met for a woman and letting her chill out, soften, come down from her day and whatnot, and meet for intimacy later. And that's wonderful. I teach it like this, so I'm just going to say it. Foreplay for women is everything that happens from the last time you had sex until the next time you have sex. So if you're intimate and then you're MIA for her emotionally all week, and then you want to do it again on Friday, she'd be like, yeah, it's not happening, because all of that care that she's needed in between hasn't happened. But you guys are just ready to decompress whenever you want.
Yeah.
Right. So it's different. And I think what happens is that if those heart needs aren't being met for the woman, she's going to close down. She's going to close down to you, and you guys are going to feel it. And then you'll be like, why doesn't she want to have sex with me? And then you guys don't feel loved. And then it becomes a very unhealthy relationship dynamic, because she's like, well, he just wants to have sex all the time. He doesn't care about how I feel.
So all he thinks about is sex.
All he thinks about is sex. And it's really, no, I want to feel love and connected to my wife. But that's the method. One of the methods that you guys feel love is through sex. And I think a lot of women don't understand that. Yeah, they think you're just trying to get laid.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really probably healthy for understanding each other's perspectives. Like, that's why I brought it up. I think if women understood why men think that way, it's not just because they're, vile and dirty and nasty, and that's all they think about. It's because of that connection that they feel.
I had this conversation with a client of mine and his wife, because they were in that tension point. And the husband, thankfully, is very, very receptive. And I said, what if you were to abstain for 2 weeks to 30 days and just see what happens for both of you when that's not a point of argument? And it was really fascinating for her to be able to witness all of the things that her husband did for her all the time. She goes, oh, yeah, he did this and this today, and he did that and that. And I never noticed it before. And he noticed that he wasn't constantly chasing sex in order to feel love from his wife, that he was able to connect with her in different ways. And she was softening and being more receptive towards him because they were more focused on the connection point. And so when they did finally have sex again, she said to me, that was the best sex of my life. Yeah. They've been married, I think it was 12 or 14 years.
Yeah.
So those are profound conversations. It's not because I don't want you guys to be intimate. It's just, it's revealing.
Right.
If sex is an argument, it's because there's other things that aren't happening for the two of you and that needs to be brought to the surface and, rectified and worked through.
You work with a lot of really high performing, high value, high performing men. But just because you're a high performing man, you're successful, doesn't mean you're going to be successful in relationships. We've seen it. In fact, it's oftentimes the opposite.
It is the opposite.
Brad Pitt, arguably the most handsome man in history, right?
I don't know. Henry Cavill's kind of got,
but successful nonetheless. And but failed marriage.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, highly successful film. I mean, you could name after name, successful man, a failed marriage. Why does that not equate? Why does the high performing people that are successful everywhere else not able to hold it down at home and be successful, fail at marriage?
Well, I think you said two different things at the beginning, which I believe are very important. You said high performing and high value.
Oh, okay.
And they are not synonymous at all. So people think that just because a high performer makes a lot of money, he's got publicly recognized success, is automatically high value. And that's not necessarily true. His character could be crap. His character could be terrible.
Probably oftentimes it is.
And it's interesting because high value, when I hear women online say, I want a high value man, and they rattle off those stats that we talked about earlier, I'm like, that's not a high value man. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So high value to me is, what are those man's morals? What are his ethics? What are his values? What does he stand for? Like, what's his character like? What's his integrity like? That's a high value man. And then what's his follow through like? Because a man can talk a lot, he can say a lot, but if he's got no ambition and no desire to pursue that ambition and make something of himself, then what's going to happen? So high performing men, when they also have high value characters, are interesting to work with because a lot of times they don't know how to balance the relational aspect of being with women because they have different demands. Your regular guy who goes to work Monday to Friday, he works 9 to 5, he comes home at the end of every day, he can help you with the kids and do all the things. That's a totally different type of man than a man who's high performing and of high value. Because he's not going to be home all the time. He's going to be working insane hours. He's going to be taking calls at 2 a.m. You're going to be on a family trip. He's got to step away. He's got to do a thing. And most women are not prepared for what it means to be with a high performing man because they don't understand the demands of what he does in order to provide the life that he does. And there's a calibration that has to take place, and it's not for everyone.
I say a lot of women probably think they want that kind of man.
Yeah, because they like the idea of the lifestyle. And they really realize that they also want to have an intimate and loving relationship, and they don't know how to adjust and reconcile the two. And it takes effort. That's why when you're vetting and you're dating or courting, you really have to know. Because if you want your quiet little farm life, your high performing, high travel, all this stuff is not going to be for you. So you can't get caught up in the glamour of it and the idea of it and not the responsibility. Because there is a responsibility when you are with a high-performing man. that you have to show up a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it is possible.
Yeah, of course it's possible. It's possible.
So what's the, I mean, the work's obviously on both people's parts, but in that scenario, in that dynamic where you have a high value man who's high performing, what's the I guess the secret there, and who's the one? Again, both people have to be all in to pull it together, but who's leaning in on the relationship side the most? I mean, to me, maybe I'm being a little selfish here, but it seems like the woman would be the one kind of leaning in more on the relationship side.
A little bit. This is where the self-sacrificial aspects of a man comes in.
Yeah.
And understanding that if you're going to marry a woman who you love and loves you, we're not just doing a surface level appearance-based marriage here, that you have a responsibility to manage
her as well.
And that relationship with your wife. And you have to have conversations where it might be like, oh, hey, I'm going to be on the road for the next 4 weeks traveling. I'm all over, Europe and the United States and yada, yada, yada. I'll be home. After that, we're going to take a week or 2 weeks and we're going to go do something for us. That clarity of that time definition is very helpful for a woman. We thrive on clarity.
Yeah.
If we don't have clarity, we become neurotic. So for anyone out there, if your wife is neurotic, it's because she doesn't have clarity. Be more clear, she'll calm down.
Yeah.
If you take anything away from this, it's that. So communication is really important. A man has to be very clear about what he's doing, when he's going to block off time for her. And she also has to be gracious. Because if something urgent comes up and that man is running a 9-figure show, he's going to have things that are urgent. He's going to have things that can't wait. And he's going to have times where he's going to call you and be like, babe, I can't disappear for a week down to the Caribbean or, south of France because I have to go deal with X, Y, and Z. And she has to be more gracious because she understands that that's what she agreed to marry into. And she also agreed to be within that as his ambition grew.
Yeah.
And you grow in that if you didn't marry into it, if you didn't marry into a man who's that level of performance, but you grew, it'll be easier, I think. But for women who marry into high-performing men, you have to have a razor-sharp clarity and understanding, and woman has to have a lot of grace.
Good communication.
Yeah, and she has to have her own life.
Yes.
When women don't have their own life, they make the man their whole life, and then when he's not home, they get a little bit grumpy about it. You have to have your own life. You have to be okay with maybe traveling by yourself sometimes or going with your girlfriends or philanthropy or whatever it is that you want to do, but you have to have your own life. And enjoy it. You have to love it. Because then when he's got to go do whatever he needs to do, you're like, oh, that's great. I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. And you have a good time. Everyone's happy.
Yes. I love that you're doing this and giving women, not just women, but, men some clarity on these subjects and helping us understand women more and relationships more. I know you don't have one out yet, but I'd really... right here, I'd like to encourage you. Put a book. You got to do a book.
I'm working on it.
Yeah,
I promise.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many books out there on biblical masculinity, but I don't think any of this. And a lot of women read the books on biblical masculinity to try to understand us better. And I think a lot of men would be super interested. And I hope the men here would really appreciate it, hearing your side of this today.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. The one thing that I've always struggled with when it comes to books, maybe this is just my brain, but men tend to function this way too, is when you read a book, it's very conceptual.
Right.
And people often have trouble taking a concept and going, how does this apply to my life? Especially when it comes to human emotions, even more so when it comes to women. Because it's, oh, well, how does this apply to my wife or my situation? Because there's so much nuance and a book doesn't account for nuance. So I often prefer a conversation because I can dial down your nuances and say, oh, we're here, and here. Work on this, and this. And they're like, okay, great. And they take off. I don't hear from them for 3 weeks, but it's because they're happy and life's good. Men are so effective at taking something that you give them implementing it and having results. They just do it. And they're so powerful. So when I work with men, I notice that their marriages actually change faster because it's a leadership thing.
Yeah.
And they're just honoring what they do naturally. And it happens so much faster when the men decide to do that.
Well, for men that are listening, women that are listening, couples that are listening, I guess all of the above, if they were interested in working with you, where would they reach you?
They can come through the website if they want to. There's a contact on there. There's a WhatsApp option on there. My Instagram is on there. You can pick any normal.
What's the website?
It's kingdom-femininity.com.
And we'll put the link in the show notes below.
Yes. Yeah. And then my Instagram is actually Kingdom Femininity Restoration, because I believe in the restoration of natural roles. Yeah.
Well, one thing we didn't talk about, but I can't get off with is you're also a ballroom dancer, and you're going to be you'll be dancing in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
For a charity, which is a great charity, Tunnel. I know we have Mighty Oaks, but also Tunnel for Towers, great charity, and you're going to be representing Tunnel for Towers dancing.
Yes.
In Mar-a-Lago.
I am, and I actually dedicated my dance to yours truly, because of Yes, I did. So I'm dancing there on March 27th, and it's a charitable organization that we've chosen for the year. It's going to be a lot of fun, and people can vote or donate or come to the show if they want to. It's black tie. It's going to be good fun.
I guess what type of ballroom dancing? Because I'm not a ballroom dancer.
For me, I'm doing a Viennese waltz.
What?
A Viennese waltz.
What is that?
It's the waltz they do in Vienna.
Okay.
I was like, how do I work this backwards?
I can't. I was like, I'm not going to make you demonstrate it. But
with some fun acrobatics and tricks thrown in.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for all you do. We have some great sponsors for the show. Got a couple of things we want to give you. We want to give you some BioPro supplements, because I know you and your husband both like to work out. So BioPro is actually based out of Florida, which is where you live.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get you and your husband some BioPro supplements. And I know you're originally from Canada, and you guys aren't big on guns up there, but
listen,
you're in America right now.
We're not allowed to have them, but it doesn't mean I don't like them.
Well, since you are in America and you're in Florida, you're in a pro-gun state.
I am.
You're a constitutional carry state. Smith & Wesson is one of our partners and sponsors, as well as Vortex Optics, Gators Eyewear, all stuff I use for firearms. But this is called the Bodyguard. Mm-hmm. It's a 380, and it holds 13 rounds. It's actually a really cool little gun that fits. You could tuck away in your purse. You can even get it Cerakoted pink or purple if you wanted to.
Now you're speaking my language.
You can bejewel it. Is that what you call it? Bejewel?
I mean, I wouldn't bejewel it, but I might get it pink or purple.
Yeah. But 13 rounds, fits in your purse. It's called the Bodyguard. I love this little gun. It shoots super flat for such a small gun.
I don't think it's very heavy either, is it?
No. It's not very heavy.
Oh yeah, that's not heavy at all.
No.
I could fit that in my purse.
You put it in your purse, a little pouch to keep it safe, and yeah. So we'll get you on behalf of Smith & Wesson.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome to America. We'll get you a Smith & Wesson gun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jen.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. Hey guys, Jen's gonna do a little Patreon piece as well. So check out Patreon. If you're not already a Patreon member, check out Patreon, because it is one of the best ways you can support the show and get tons of bonus content from all of our amazing guests that we have on the show. Plus, learn more about some of our partnerships with those sponsors. And if you have not done so, also like this episode, share it, leave a comment on it for Jen, question or comment on it, and then go check out Jen's website. Her link's in the show notes below. Maybe you or your spouse or your marriage could use some of Jen's advice. So we'll see you next week. God bless, and stay resilient. Hey, what's up, Resilient family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind the scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.